Welcome, everyone. I'm Erica Voll, and I'm so glad to welcome you to this first in a series of conversations with women in midlife about trusting our voices. These conversations were inspired by an article series that I wrote. The first one is called Midlife Women and the Voices We Stopped Trusting. Part two, it will be out soon. It's coming together. Today, we are joined by Charlotte Webb, who I just love so much. She writes CEO with a Singing Bowl on Substack, and she was one of the 15 women I interviewed for this article series. And I have to say, the article series was really inspired by Charlotte's workshop. So I'm just like, I feel like things merged so beautifully. So we're going to have a conversation. We're not doing an interview. We're just going to have a conversation about how our experiences with our voices and how we're using it in our work. And Charlotte, I would love for you to share your experience with your voice. What was it like growing up? And then did you like the sound of your voice? And then talk to us more about like how we'll have a conversation about how we use human design and voices. So Charlotte, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Erica. I'm so happy to be here. I love this conversation. And yeah, wow, it's so interesting, isn't it, to think back to what it was like with your voice growing up. And I know that my relationship to my voice has changed so much. I think, especially in adult life, I've really come to actually, dare I say it, like my voice, love the sound of my own voice. And I remember in our conversation, we were talking about how sort of blasphemous it can feel to say that. And, I always, when you were asking the questions, I was thinking about that criticism, oh, she loves the sound of her own voice, or he loves the sound of his own voice, to suggest that you're very arrogant, very self-obsessed, a bit, possibly a bit narcissistic. And I remember that feeling of, you shouldn't like your own voice. You shouldn't necessarily be about yourself or anything like that. But I don't think that's what like loving your voice really means. I don't think it means being narcissistic or navel gazing. I think it means like coming into contact with your ability to connect and your ability to express and all of that stuff. So it was great that your question surfaced that.
Yeah. And for me, like this article was inspired by you. And when I started exploring like doing my own workshop on voice, I didn't feel like I could trust my voice. I'm still working on it. I mean, I'm 52 and I'm still figuring it out, but I did not like the sound of my voice when I was a kid. I thought I sounded like a boy, and I always had a short haircut. I had the Dorothy Hamill haircut that like, was all the rage in the early 80s. But I was constantly being mistaken for a boy because I liked the shoes that the boys picked out. And that's where I remember it most, was when we would go shoe shopping and they were like, "What's his name?" And my mom would say Erica, and they're like, "Oh, Eric." And I was like, "No, no, no, Erica." But I couldn't say it out loud because I was just so afraid of like the shoe salesman would think I was being, defiant or whatever. And then it took a storytelling class in grad school. I was in my 30s and my teacher said, "Your voice is so crisp and clear. Love it." And I was like, "Love it? What?" Because I'd always thought it was so harsh and just, like I would yell across the room and like in my family, and I was just like that witchy voice. And so that was really a turning point. And then as I become learning about human design, I'm like, oh, I have a unique voice, and it's just
Mm.
not. And I it's funny because now I really enjoy listening to myself. I enjoy going when I edit my podcast. I'm like, I have a really nice voice, and I know not everybody's going to resonate with my voice. There are going to be people who find it harsh. There are going to be people who find it weird, but I just don't. I've learned to love it, and so I love that you talk about how it's not narcissistic. I think it's what we're supposed to hear, but
Yeah.
we've been taught as women to not like our voices.
Totally. I love it so much. And I know that one thing that has been very helpful for some of the folks I've worked with is breaking through the cringe barrier of listening back to yourself. Yeah, I'll even have people just leave short voice notes and listen back to the voice notes. And it's,
Mm.
again, it could sound a bit like weird or ego-y, but I almost always listen back to my voice notes because I don't know, there's just something about trusting, like saying about trusting your voice, listening back to what you've said in a very low stakes environment can, I think, build a lot of trust in yourself, because when you're not trying too hard, like that's often when your wisdom comes through and stuff like that. So kind of like, building that as a muscle, I think can be really, really powerful. My cat is just exploding his voice. Hang on a second. Come on then. He's very vocal.
I love it. Yeah. So talk to me about how are you using it? You said you've actually before we ask that question, one of the things that I'm sure you've had this experience where people have said to you, your voice is so soothing. And like for me, when I work with clients, they're like, you should record our meditations. And I'm like, no, because it's so in the moment. I don't know. But when have you had people tell you that you like should record your voice? And I know I've seen you on Insight Timer, I think.
Oh, have you? Oh, I don't know if I don't think I'm on Insight
You're
Timer.
not on
Maybe.
Insight Timer. Okay, somebody else
But,
is on Insight Timer.
yes, definitely. People have said that a lot. And actually, one of the ways that I did sort of develop my voice in a more public way was through doing guided meditations, because I love that register as well. And, it's really funny, isn't it? Even if I'm making a video where there's an introduction to the meditation and then there's the meditation, you feel your voice change. You'll explain it and you're kind of up here, and it's a different tone, and then you drop into the meditation
Yeah.
and your voice changes, and everything. So that you have these different sort of ranges even within one recording, where it's going to kind of move and shift depending on what's needed. What you reminded me of though, Erica, was when you were saying about how you know that certain people will just vibe with your voice and some people won't, and it's this really amazing filter. And I really feel like one of the reasons why I fell in love with my partner was because of his voice.
Oh, same.
Oh God. And
Same with mine.
I really think it's like this underestimated dimension of human attraction.
Mhm.
Do you make decisions about who you want to work with, or who you might buy something from, or who you might want to hang out with, just literally because you can follow them or you can't? Like some people, even if I want to listen to them, it's like the actual tone of the words will just pass through. I can't hear it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it's totally. Like there are some people that I will go on the podcast and it's an interview I want to listen to, and the host, I cannot stand their voice, and I'm like, is there any way I can just filter them out? Like just can't. And I know that like we talk about, I've heard that 90% of communication is nonverbal, but I think that there is so much behind our voice. And I was actually listening to a podcast this weekend about how your voice can sell or not sell. And she was saying that there are 7 layers of your voice. And it was so fascinating to me, and how a lot of times we'll mimic people and we'll be higher voice. And she was talking about, there are women who work with her. I can't remember her name, Tracy something, and I'll put it in the notes. But she was saying that a lot of women will come to her and say, "I don't understand why people don't take me seriously." And they're working in a very high register, and so they're like, "I don't
Mm.
understand why people don't wanna work with me or don't wanna buy from me." And she's like, "That's not your real voice. Your real voice is at a different level." And we've found so a lot of times that, like, we've heard from other people that this is how you sell and that this is how you should talk. And so
Mm.
we're at that higher register, and I there are women that I have encountered, and, like, you hear them in a conversation and they're really high, and then you get them into a different conversation and they're lower, and you're like, what is your real voice?
Mm.
And I find myself doing that when I'm doing a workshop. I'm like, welcome everyone. How are you? And I think
Yeah,
that's me, but it's also not me because that's what's been modeled for us in the online space for years.
totally, totally. Oh, and by the way, anyone who's here, if you do want to speak to us with your text-based voice, let
Yes,
us
we love
know. Let us know. And it's so funny you said about mimicking, because I had this recollection about childhood when you were asking about that at the beginning, that I used to be literally a mimic. What's that bird? Are they called liver birds?
the
The
mima
ones,
bird,
but yeah,
the mina bird.
the minor bird. I was a minor bird as a child, and I would, because I'm so would just fall in love with like everyone, and I wanted
Mm,
to be like everyone, and I could make myself sound like them to kind of like want to get close to them, or like want to be like them. And it kind of even got me in trouble a few times, especially there was this one girl and I thought she was the coolest human being on the planet, and and my voice changed to sound like her voice, and she didn't like that, and people noticed, and it was weird. um, but it kind of makes me reflect on the ways that we do sometimes so want to emulate those that we admire, that we forget that to have the qualities they want, which are usually from them being more like themselves. It's like we
yeah.
just have to be more true, right? And not try to take on these other qualities. And I know that in in human design, like when you've got an open communication center, sometimes you can have that quality of like chameleon likeness with your voice.
Mhm.
I found that.
Oh, yeah, just 'cause, when I was a children's librarian, I had a library director say to me, "I don't understand how you can talk to the kids in a way that the rest of us can't." And I was like, "I'm just talking to them like humans." But one of the things I noticed is that my voice didn't go up, and I didn't get that, like, sort of talking down to them, and I didn't get that baby voice that I hear a lot of. I don't know why women do this, and I know it's like we wanna it's that voice we talk to babies with, but I think
Mm,
we tend to also talk to younger children that way, and I didn't. I just talk to the kids like they're normal kids, but I don't, "How are you today?" I don't do that, and she's like, "I don't understand why kids resonate with you so much, like, why they are attracted to you so much when you don't talk to them the way the rest of us do," and I was like, I'm just talking to them like they're kids. Like, they are real people, and I don't see them any differently, but I also my husband is like, "You can strike up a conversation with so many people." Like, we'll be on the airplane,
mm,
and for some reason, there's some connection that happens, and I don't know that it's my voice necessarily, but I am just like I am a connector in so many ways, and like, "Oh, you like to quilt? Have you been to this quilt store?" Like, I talked for an
mm,
hour with some people about a quilt store, and they were like I just I don't know if it's part of me that was taught to always have a way to have a conversation, because my mom was sort of the same way, but my mom has a defined throat, and but I also think a lot of it was just conditioning is, like, have something to say. Always have something to say. Always be able to have a conversation with people, which can be a good thing at in the same time, like, I can tell when I'm forcing a conversation because I'm like, "So, how is this?" I start to lose that sense of that I'm talking from a place of pressure as opposed to a place of true enjoyment, and I
mm.
think that that is the talking to fill the space I know is sort of the shadow side of the undefined throat in the human design. So how about you? Like, how has that showed up for you?
Yeah, I love it, because I think that's one of the most powerful things about studying the throat center in human design, is that it can show you, like, if you're out of alignment, what might be occurring that makes communication and connection and resonance really natural. And that thing of speaking at the wrong time is such a big one, isn't it?
Mhm.
Like in the case of my profile, there can be this thing about just saying yes. Like, just keep saying yes. And then having to rein it in or regretting it afterwards. And that can be to do with other aspects of your design as well. But I really relate to speaking too soon
Mhm.
in terms of what I'm agreeing to. Can I hold myself steady for a little bit longer? Can I be silent for a little bit longer? Can I pause? Can I, wait so that I don't have to backtrack? So that's been really, really helpful as well. And it's funny because I have a defined throat center. So the idea is that my communication style is more kind of consistent and more steady and more defined. But on the other hand, there are certain activations in there that I think do mean there's a lot of different range, and I speak in so many different ways for different contexts and things. So I always think that, we're pretty aligned on this idea that you don't let your human design define you, you don't let it box you
Mhm.
in. You look at it and you study it and you go deep and you kind of understand, well, if it feels like, oh, that doesn't really seem like me, that doesn't really seem resonant, there's going to be a reason why in there. But it's so powerful for realizing, some of the ways that you can miscommunicate if you're not anchored in your true highest self-expression.
Mhm. Yeah, taking, Julie Ciardi's class on The Voice, like, completely changed me. I After I did that, I was like, "Oh, I have something to say. I feel like I need to start a podcast." And I feel like for a while, like, everybody I knew was starting a podcast, and I was like, "I don't wanna just be the another person." And I thought, "I don't know what to say." And then, taking her class, I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna speak from my own experience," because that's what people have told me is they're like, "I resonated so much with your story that" they're like, "I wanna work with you. I want"
Mm,
learning how to make decisions, like, nobody comes to me and says, "I don't know how to make decisions." They're like, "There's something about that your story of feeling like you never could make a good decision or that you burned out and used human design to help you heal." That's where they're like, "I wanna know more. I wanna know more. I wanna know how you did it, and I want you to be able to help me see this." And I found it so interesting. I saw an email this weekend that was like, "Human design is a mirror for you. It's not telling you, it's not just giving you information, it's actually mirroring what you've lived for your entire life." And that's where I really resonated with it the most was I was like, "Oh my gosh, how has this system been reading my life diaries for my entire life?"
totally. And what do you feel about because I don't know whether you have this activated or not, but there's some kind of archetypal energy that's about the storyteller.
Mhm.
And you're talking about people resonating with you and coming to work with you because of your story. Like, how important do you think that aspect of storytelling is in the work that you're doing and in the way that you reach people that you want to help?
Stories are huge. Like, that's where I find that so many women are stuck, is the stories that they have been telling themselves over and over and over. Like, "I have a bad relationship with my mom, and I can't it's my mom being the problem." And it's like, "No, it's your mom's not being the problem." And we all have a lot of us have mother issues. But a lot of it is the story that they have been making up around this and that what they've attached to. And so stories are part of the untangling of the patterns that we do. But for me, like defined gate in my throat center, or my throat center is undefined, but that one activation is about sharing experiences
Mm,
and also new beginnings. And that it can have a shadow side of like shiny object syndrome, always wanting to do something new. It's the as Julie Ciardi calls it, the limitless adventurer. And I'm always like, "Let's do something new. Let's try something new." I'm always the new adopter of things, but those stories are very, very key to our work together is because story we all have stories we tell ourselves. We have stories we have tied into something and like, it'll be this little tiny piece, but we've created this giant yarn ball around it with all the stories. And so untangling some of those stories is so key. And I think that that's where a lot of it for me happened was untangling these stories that I had made up that I had nothing important to say and that I d I wasn't seen as any sort of authority. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me. One of the influences in my own thinking about voice has been Alberto Violdo, who is kind of a modern day shaman, and he teaches that modality from like the Andean tradition. And I took a very brilliant class of his that was about a journey through the energy centers, but from a shamanic point of view. And when it comes to the throat, he has this really amazing way of looking at the throat as this kind of matrix that we structure our reality around. It's very beautiful how he describes it, but he also says that it's where we become the author of our life. And when we open the throat and heal the throat center, we start to see our life as a hero's journey, and we really start to move from that feeling of life's happening to me to I am the creator, I'm the author. And he says what happens when you move into that energy is that the universe starts speaking back to you in its own language, which is the language of synchronicity. So you start to receive the little pebbles and the guidance and the universal messaging when you step into that authorial position. So
Ooh, I have chills.
Yes, absolutely. I just love that so much. And it feels like a tipping point in reality.
Yeah. So how are you using voice in your work with your clients? Because I know that you did a whole workshop on voice.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I kind of, very inspired by Julie Ciardi's teachings, I kind of developed a way of thinking about voice that was to do with a 3-stage process of sort of listening, speaking, and manifesting. And, it kind of starts with the idea that to really receive your own voice, we have to get quiet and start with receptivity. And I think I was like joking to people that there's 2 voices that are more important than your own voice. One's the voice in your head and one's the voice of God. And it's like you be able to hear what's going on like inside yourself, whether it's in your mind or whether it's being a channel, like receiving that divine inspiration. We have to stop constantly feeding stuff into our channel, because then there's too much noise, there's too much signal. So we kind of looked at that first. We looked at like, okay, how do we really, quieten ourselves down so we can hear ourselves think and that we can receive the divine and become a channel for that. And then we kind of move into the speaking sort of dimension, which is really about, we went deep in looking at these 11 different archetypal voices in the throat center and which ones are activated and which ones are not, and what that can show you about your unique way of communicating with the world. And then the idea is that when you come into more coherence, when you start to really unlock the potential of your voice, it literally is the bridge between your inner world and your outer reality, and things start to physically form around you. So that was kind of the framework, and it's incredibly powerful. We also worked on a kind of voice activation method, which was really looking at how are you suited to create with your voice, because some people love to write, some people love to speak, some people like to speak and then write and then speak, or you have to find your own way. And so we kind of really dive into, based on your design, how do you want to get your work out there, and how do you want to have a really feel good system for moving into these different modalities and registers. It was very cool.
Oh, cool. I loved the humming at the beginning of one of them, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh," so I've been humming during my meditations if I'm feeling like there's a lot stuck, because I do breath work in the morning, and I'm like, there's sometimes I need to hum, and I love that you that you taught me that. I was like, "Oh, never." I don't know why it didn't come for me. But sometimes, like, we receive what we need at the time, and so, I would love to hear about, um, how you're feeling in midlife, like, how your trust in your voice has changed in midlife.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's changed so much. And I remember hearing you talk about how your voice had physically changed, or you felt that. And I know that when I fell in love with my partner, I was in a long relationship and married, and that marriage ended. And a big kind of life transition was, dealing with that, processing that, and finding a new person, a real soulmate person. And I really remember when I met him, and when I was in that really just highest vibration of new love, my laugh like came online. I'm not even joking. Like I was I was like, where's my this laugh is actually my real laugh, and it hasn't been here. And I mean, what can you have a like higher expression of love than your real laugh emerging because you're with someone? I mean, so that was a massive shift. But then also, I remember in my kind of previous career chapter, I had, an amazing opportunity to do one of those TEDx talks. And it was very, very difficult because it had to be very, very scripted, and we had to sign the whole thing off. And I basically had to learn it by heart, which I did, but that was like such an unbelievable amount of cognitive load. It's like an 18-minute thing to learn off by heart. It was wild. And I did it, and I was really proud of myself for doing it. And I kind of enjoyed it in the moment, but then it went on YouTube, and it got like negative feedback, like horrible criticism. It was like about feminism, and there's naturally going to be some hateration there. But my whole being, like my nervous system and my sense of self and everything, it was just not ready to receive criticism and stay firm in myself. And like the level of cringe, and actually, I would say, if I'm honest, Erica, shame. I felt that people were commenting that my talk was stupid and stuff. Like I really found that very crushing at the time, because
Oh,
I hadn't done any of this work. I didn't know myself. I wasn't grounded. I was like kind of in this flow of my career and having lots of expectations to speak publicly without like really having that solidity underneath me. So that was pretty challenging. And like the sad thing is that I think it was a pretty good talk, but I perceived it to be terrible because I really believed what people said. And as a result of that, I didn't share it. I didn't put it in my email signature like all the people I knew who were also doing TEDx talks were doing. Like I didn't maximize it and use it as leverage in my business or my career because I was just very ashamed of it. And that's really sad. Like for a young woman putting herself out there and actually talking about stuff that can change the world. And I think that now things are different. I think now I'm able to speak more from a place of like really knowing that if I'm going to speak, I'm going to speak about something I believe, and that giving me more solidity, and knowing that if I'm going to speak, I'm going to more likely speak to people who resonate already with what I'm saying. And if it does come to one of those situations where there's backlash or trolling or whatever, I am more resourced to handle it. So yeah, but how about you? How have things changed for you?
I feel like so I was in the library world for 19 years, and I always felt like somebody else knew more than me, and I gave a national presentation and I gave a state presentation, but I remember the feedback I received from somebody was, "Memorize your talk.
Yeah.
You pause too much," and I was like, "Okay." And so I memorized it, and then when I got on stage, I felt so robotic. It did not feel like me, but I also realized that I wasn't talking about something that I loved.
Mm.
And so as I have developed talking about what I love, I can talk for hours. I can talk for hours. Like I have to really I when I write my podcast episodes, that's all talk to text. So I'm talking to Google Docs, it's writing it down, and then I go and edit it, and then I go re-record it. And I love doing it that way because it gets some of my funny little ticks that say, or and I throw things in as I'm recording, but that way it feels much more genuine. But I realized as I'm talking about things that I love, my voice is so much different. I am
Yeah.
not feeling robotic. I am not so in my head of what needs to be said next that that has changed so much for me. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I've noticed is I noticed this last night when I was at a group of women moms with Girl Scouts, and I found myself not wanting to talk because I did not feel it's not that I didn't feel accepted there, it's just that I was like, "I don't want to participate in the mom drama of
Mm.
I'm more busy or this and that," and so I just found myself just sitting there, I would talk when I found an opportunity, but that's the other thing is I have found, especially at this age, I am not talking to fill the space anymore. I am not talking to keep the conversation going. I am not talking to one up somebody. I'm just sitting back and I'm like, this is not I'm not I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. And that's where I feel like that has really changed me more than anything is I'm no longer trying to be somebody that I'm not. I'm only speaking when it feels genuine.
Do you feel that do you have a particular way of supporting people who do feel that maybe as they move more into alignment with their soul's purpose and they find their legacy work and they do all the
Mhm.
things they want to do in life? Sorry, my cat is just really being a bit naughty. Um,
Right.
Stop it.
He has something to say too. He wants to
He's
be
got
part
a
of
lot
it.
to say. Often there can be that separation, can't there, of feeling like less and less connected with older friends, or the people around you aren't seeing what you're seeing.
Mhm.
They're not ascending in the same way. Maybe they're not like on, vibrating at the same frequency anymore, and all these things. And so many times I hear people saying like that's really difficult and causing them some pain and a sense of disconnection. And how do you support people through that transition in their life?
I find that a lot like I said earlier, the stories, we're just a lot of the work is untangling those stories and untangling that message that they are not as important as they got a message that they should not speak or that, um, their voice isn't important. And that
Mm.
they have been talked over a lot, and even women who have a defined throat center will say, "Yeah, I grew up in a big family and everybody talked over each other," or, "I was told that my voice didn't matter, but my brothers did."
Yeah.
And, um, or my mom was really quiet, and because my mom shut down, I realized that I was being too loud because their mom told them that they were too loud. And so I'm finding it's this is sort of a new part of my work is that I'm realizing that the stories are also coming from the messages that they received as kids and even 20 somethings. And So often those stories are what are shaping our lives, and that untangling of the conditioning and the being told this is how you should do things is a big part of the work we're doing. And the voice is just a newer piece that's coming in. And I'm like,
Mm.
I'm seeing as I'm starting to look at clients' throat centers, I'm like, oh, I can see how this is coming into play. And then with one client, I can see how her throat and her emotional center are uh, connected. And so I can see that some of the stories about her decisions are coming up so clearly of that, her family told her that she was not making decisions the right way and that she was too emotional. And she needed to stop talking about how emotional she was. Stop saying I feel. Start saying I
Mm.
think.
Oh
So,
gosh.
yeah, and when I started to see as I was working on this voice article, like, all these ads started to come up about how to speak more masculine and how to be more cis male, and I then I had a session with this client, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this ad is mirroring perfectly what she's telling me." So
Mm.
it was so fascinating. So let's go ahead and let's wrap up in the next few minutes. So Charlotte, how can people find you and how can they work with you? And what are you writing about?
Yeah, so I would love people to find me here on Substack. Oh, everything's just gone black. What happened? Oh,
I can still hear you.
that was really weird. Like my whole screen, when I don't know what happened in the void there about coming to follow me on Substack. It's like into the vortex. Yeah, I'd love people to find me here on Substack, and I'm writing about voice. I'm writing a bit about human design and the gene keys and visibility, and energetic intelligence, really, and how that can inform leadership of the new era kind. And yeah, I do offer a magnetic voice activation call too, which is really fun, where we do get to look a little bit at the voice and how maybe it is being held back a little bit and how we can look at opening it out. So that's an option as well. But yeah, I think it's all about Substack, isn't it? So
Yes.
come join the party here.
Yes. I love Substack so much. I feel like it's reminding me of blogging from the
Mm.
early 2000s. Like, I was an early adopter of that. And before we go, and I am also offering, for my paid subscribers, I'm going to be offering a workshop at the end of May. It was supposed to be next week, but I just didn't feel like it was going to be ready in the way there were certain things that were coming through as I was working on the article, and I was like, "That workshop, I don't wanna rush it. I want some the juiciness that's come through in the article to come through in the workshop." So I'm delaying it until the end of May, and that's for paid Substack subscribers, and you can join for just a month and just get that workshop. Um, and then I also have a life patterns review that I do with, clients, people who are interested in working with me, and we go in and we look at, like, where are the patterns showing up in your life? And I ask people at the very end, and I'm like, "What are patterns you're seeing?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm seeing that, and oh, I'm seeing that." And one was said, I feel like I was talked over. I've noticed that I would always quieted myself. I always let other people talk for me. And I was like, oh, that is so powerful. And before we go, we have to share the story that happened before we signed on, before we went live. Like, it could not have been more ironic that we signed on today to do the prep, and neither one of us could hear each other. Like, it was just
No, we were lip reading. It was like this very coded way of communication for about 10 minutes, wasn't it?
yeah, it was
It's
so
like, I can
funny.
see what you're saying, but I can't hear you. It's so ironic.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Charlotte, it was so great to talk to you today. I know it's afternoon for you, it's morning for me, so thank
Thank you
you.
so much. I absolutely loved it. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
you.
you. Oh, wait, we've got 13 people. I love it. 13.
Amazing. The joys of life. Thanks,
Yes.
everyone.
Bye, Lana. Thank you. Bye.